All right, so moving on. So yeah, a bit more about me, but I think we covered all of that. So yeah, if you want to know more, just search up on the NCEA page, like about the scholarship results in 2023. Like you should be able to find some information about me. And yeah, just on there. So just some introduction on how NCEA works. NCEA is the main school leaving qualification in New Zealand. It's I think there are only like 500 people who actually do IB and probably a bit more doing Cambridge. But the overall idea is that the vast majority of the 60,000 students in New Zealand do NCEA. It's made of 3 levels from year 11 to year 12 to year 13. But of course, it's not always like so rigid. As in, sometimes you have people who are in year 10 but start doing level 1. It's essentially skipping a level. And you can also, for example, in my experience, I did level 1 English in year 10, level 2 in year 11, and level 3 in year 12. So it was a bit of like a skipping the year level for each of them. And 80 credits are needed to pass every single level, including 10 literacy and math credits. What this means is that you need to have 10 English or media or history, just any kind of literacy credits at every single level to be able to pass, as well as 10 math. Doesn't have to be calculus. It can also be statistics. So if you wanted to go to med school, I think statistics is like the better option for you. But the idea is you want to do a math as well. And university entrance, you also need to have like 14 credits across 3 different approved subjects. By approved, well, you have to look on the website. I don't know the whole list. So yeah, go figure it out, I guess. So on there. Internals and externals. So this is something that my parents had a lot of struggle trying to understand. So externals are these exams at the end of the year where the NCEA people come in and they basically sit you in a massive auditorium and you have to do the exam. And everyone in the country does it at the same time so that, well, no one cheats. And internals are these other exams that, and sometimes not exams, but rather assignments that you do throughout the entire year. So those would be like essays, reports, science experiments, and they are also equally worth credits. So they are just as important, if not as important as the externals. And this means that you can't just rely on cramming for the externals if you want to achieve the best grades, because most of the credits are in the internals. So yeah, work consistently throughout the entire year. And the name acronym, NAME, so it's just not achieved, merit, excellence. That's how they mark everything. And it's a scale of 0 to 8. I'll talk about this a bit later. So yeah, and in terms of how rank score works, firstly, what is rank score? Rank score is the system that they use to basically put a rank on you when it comes to university applications. It is calculated using just your level 3 credits, which means that as long as you pass level 1 and 2, those credits shouldn't really matter as long as you do really good on your level 3. And each excellence credit that you have is worth 4 points, merit 3 points, and so on. What this means is, let's just say you end up getting 80 excellence credits at level 3. It means that you're just going to get a rank score of 320, because the thing is, they take your best 80 credits. What this means is, if you have, say, 100 excellence credits at level 3, they're still just going to take your 80 best credits, and you're just going to get 320 again, meaning that 320 is the top score that you can get. It means that, well, as long as you have 80 excellence credits, it's fine. You're good. And what does this really mean for university applications then? If you look at the University of Auckland, you just need 320, you just need 280, actually, to get into the top program, which is biomedical sciences. It's the one that I took last year, and it's one of the most popular ways to get into med school in New Zealand. And so this is what's needed. And 280, think about how many excellence credits you really need to get a rank score of 280. 280 divided by 4, that's like 70, right? So you should need to have 70 credits. And in total, you will be doing something like 100 credits at level 3, and you just need to have 70 of them at excellence level, which isn't really something that is super hard, I guess. So yeah, as long as you work hard and work consistently, you'll be good. And in terms of course selections, I want you to consider 3 different criteria, and those are passion, strength, and usefulness, which is something that's quite similar to what Daniel said before. And so you want to consider what you really like, because you're not going to be able to do well in a subject that you don't really enjoy. You're not going to do well if if your parents want you to do medicine, but you really hate biology, it's probably not going to work out for you, even if you have a talent for medicine, for biology, because you're just going to go into med school and not really enjoy it. So passion, super important. Strength, if you can't do it well, then it's probably not the best subject for you. But again, you want to consider it together, kind of put all the factors together. And usefulness just refers to your future job, what you're going to do in university, etc. And some universities have special prerequisites, meaning they have these requirements for what you need to take in high school in order to pursue that degree. So an example would be, I think some med schools in Australia need you to have taken chemistry and math in high school. I'm not too sure, it might have been Monash. But the idea is you want to really look at the universities, look at their requirements, and make sure that you took those subjects. And if you're not sure about those requirements, then my advice is to do this 50-50 split. As in, you do 50% STEM, math subjects, and then 50% humanities subjects. English, probably the best one. And this means that your options are going to be open, and it basically means that you won't get stuck by any prerequisite. And that will be pretty nice. And so how about University of Auckland? I believe the University of Auckland only has, I think engineering is the only one that actually has prerequisites. Then you have to have done calculus and physics during high school. And biomed and health science, if you want to go into the med school, doesn't actually have any prerequisites, at least as far as I'm aware. But that might be because I just took all the sciences in high school, so I didn't really care because I knew I had those prerequisites. So if you want the specifics, definitely look it up, just in case you missed anything. And do some subjects weigh more than others when it comes to university applications? The answer is, for University of Auckland, no, because it's based on your rank score, going back to the previous slide, which means that as long as you have good credits, you're going to be fine. But of course, if you do biology in high school and chemistry, it's really going to help you when you go into medicine as compared to if you just did music, because that means that even if you get a good rank score, when you go into uni, it's not going to be good for you. So how NCEA compares to the other qualifications like IB and Cambridge then? NCEA is a very broad curriculum. There are 37 subjects in total. It's very flexible, meaning you can do one subject in year 11 and switch to a totally different one in year 12 and 13, which I personally find a bit weird, but it's how it works. And yeah, it's a lot more flexible compared to the other two. But IB, on the other hand, it's very well-rounded and it's very internationally recognized, meaning that if you apply to overseas universities, it's going to be a lot more beneficial for you as compared to NCEA. And they also have this thing called CAS or CAS, where they have to do some sort of passion project. And it can be anything ranging from music to sports or dancing. But it's just something they have to demonstrate that they put a lot of time towards. So it's a lot more focused on those like extracurricular side of things as opposed to the academic side. And Cambridge is the deepest in terms of academics, in my opinion. They only take 4 subjects at level 3. But the key lies in the depth of how they go, because they are the only one that's based around a 100% system. As in, after you do an exam, you get like a 95%, 96%, whereas for NCEA, it's just from 0 to E8. And it's a lot less precise when it comes to the grading. But the idea is every qualification has their unique advantages, and you really want to consider what you want to do in the future when it comes to, well, choosing which system that you want to take. If you wanted to go to a med school in New Zealand or Australia, I recommend doing NCEA because I feel like that's the best for those. But IB and Cambridge are going to be fine as well. But the reason I think NCEA is slightly better is that NCEA is generally easier at high school compared to Cambridge and IB, meaning it's easier for you to achieve that 280 rank score that's required for Auckland Med School. But whereas if you wanted to go overseas, I think IB and Cambridge are still better options. And now study techniques. This is just like a summary page. I recommend you guys to just, take a photo because I'm not going to go over everything on it. And yeah. So active recall, probably the most important thing. Because I see a lot of people when they study, they just look at a book or look at their notes and read it over and over again. I think that's not a very good method. And active recall means you will actually have to put more of your effort and thinking into the whole process. It's going to be a lot more tiring for your brain. And well, it's going to be a lot more tiring, but it's going to be much more effective. And examples of this is going to include mind maps, drawing mind maps, brain dumping, as in just putting all the information that you know about the topic onto the A4 page, teaching others, even like talking to a wall, those kind of things. That will be active recall. And spaced repetition, the forgetting curve, the biggest enemy of all our students. So the key thing about learning is not just, cramming it for the sake of an exam. It's about integrating that into your long-term memory. And how do you get it into your long-term memory? You have to repeat it again, right? You can't just expect to learn something once and expect it to stay in your brain forever. So which means that you want to kind of space it out. And the reason it works is that each time you expose yourself to the same stimulus, if you look at the curve, I feel like I don't have the best diagram. It's on the next page. It's not. Oops. But it's going to cause it to spike up again. And each time your forgetting curve is going to get less steep, which means that you're going to forget slower. So after going through a few times, you're not really going to forget at all. And that's when you get 100% retention of the content. Good study environment. This is different for everyone. For me personally, it's just my bedroom, but it can be your bedroom, your dining room table, or the library. I know the Massey Library is a very popular place for a lot of my friends. And focus, however, is the most important thing. You have to have an environment in which you can focus and in which your brain associates it with focus. For example, if you always associate your dining table as a place to have fun, it's very hard for you to focus there, so probably not the best place for you. But yeah, just find the place that works for you. And in terms of prioritization, I use the 4 quadrants method, or AKA the Eisenhower matrix. And I divide it into urgent and important, important, not urgent, urgent, not important, and not important, not urgent. So this is actually not in the correct order, but ranking these in the correct order is like crucial. So what do you think? How do you think I should do with it in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4? Like which one should I do first? Any answers? 1, yeah. How about second? What should I do next after I do 1? 3, yeah. Okay, and then 2, yeah. Got it. You guys are smart. And yeah, so that's how you would do things, because you always want to do the things which are urgent first. Even if it's like less important, you still want to do the things that are urgent just so you don't miss out on anything. And something that's important and not urgent for me personally would be like, choosing a specialization for what kind of doctor I want to become in the future. That's something that's super important for my life, right? But it's a decision I only have to make 5 years in the future. So right now, I just don't really have to be pressured to make that decision. And this is just a diagram of how that would kind of work. And yeah, just draw a diagram like this and put all your to-do lists onto the diagram, and you will figure out exactly what you need to do. So Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro is just a fancy name for timetabled study sessions. And it's because your brain really likes to have fixed patterns and also likes to rest. So it allows your brain to always function best whenever you are studying. And my recommendation is 40 plus 10. What does this mean? Study with absolute focus for 40 minutes and then rest for 10 minutes. And some people, if you have like a shorter attention span, you can do something like 25 minutes of study and 5 minutes rest. But as long as you have a timer there, that really helps you a lot. And the key thing about this technique is achieving balance between the rest and your study sessions. And also making sure that during your rest sessions, you don't just go on your phone and start to just scrolling with Instagram Reels or TikTok. You want to actually go outside, drink some water, walk around, and look at some greens, touch some grass, and that kind of stuff. And coming on to the next topic now, in terms of how to improve at English, both for if you are a native speaker of it and if you are an immigrant who struggles with it. So what is English? I think a lot of people don't have like this misconception of what English really represents, because there are two versions of it. The one version is academic English, the English that you learn in school, and the other version is English that you use in your daily life. And so some people, they think that English isn't as important like in school because it's academic English and it's like Shakespeare and it doesn't directly relate to everyday life. So that's why they don't take it. But I think that it's still really important to take those things, especially if you are a native speaker. And I see a lot of these cases where you have someone who was born in New Zealand who has no issues when it comes to speaking and listening, but they really just can't write an essay very well. And so why is that? And it's because their academic English is a bit lacking, even though their regular English is like really good. So I think for a native speaker, my recommendation is to read a lot of books, get really good at academic English. And if you are a immigrant and your English is struggling right now, then focus first on just making sure your basic English and everyday English is good. And now, how important is it for you to retain your home language, i.e. Chinese? In my opinion, this might differ with a lot of you guys, and I think that it's not too important. And especially if your English is struggling right now, you should really just focus on developing your English rather than anything else. Because I think Chinese in the long run is not as useful as English on the global stage. And yeah, and it's going to take away a lot of your effort from learning English. So taking English class in high school, necessary or not? I would say yes. That's a short answer. The longer answer would be absolutely yes. So, and yeah, I guess, waffled a lot about this. Most useful English when it comes subject when it comes to everyday life. It is a weapon that allows you to learn other subjects. This is an important idea. I think there's a Chinese proverb that says, 磨刀不误砍柴工. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. If you have a sharp knife, it will be easier for you to cut the wood and to just, get through everything. And just imagine your math is superb, but you go into the exam without being able to learn, without being able to understand what the question means. You're still going to get it wrong. So for non-native speakers, it's also the key to friendships, to bridging the cultural gap between China and New Zealand. And it's a way of basically allowing you to adapt to the New Zealand society and not be a loner anymore. So of course, that's also super important in the social aspect of things and good for your mental health. And yeah, just prioritize them more than any other subject, regardless of if you are a native or non-native speaker. And how do you actually improve it then? The first and most important thing, especially for non-native speakers, is to get out of your comfort zone. And what does this look like? I know that there are a lot of immigrants who come to New Zealand, and because they're like, oh, my English is really bad, and I'm scared of making mistakes in front of other people and getting laughed at. So I'm just going to go and speak to other people who are also Chinese. And that way I wouldn't have to expose myself to how bad my English is. And I think this is like a very common sentiment. It's something that I at times felt as well when I first came to New Zealand at the age of 10. But it's just something that you really have to try your hardest to avoid. You want to get out of your comfort zone. You want to go and talk to other native speakers who speak with you in English, no matter how bad your English is right now. Because think about it like this. If you keep on hiding it, you're not going to be able to improve. And if you don't improve, your English is always going to be bad. Would you rather have that or, go out there fail many, many times, but with each coming day, become better at English. Just think about that and weigh up your options using that. And the way that I was able to go and sort of overcome my fear to speak English was that I thought about how every single day my English would be better, right? Because of practice. And I thought that each day was going to be easier than the day before. And this is the kind of growth mindset that I want all of you guys to have. And the second way is to borrow a lot of library books. It doesn't have to be academic related. It can be novels like, Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, those things. But as long as it's something that's at your current level and it's something that you are able to get entertained by and something that also somewhat challenges your English skills, it will be good. And the third step is to get a Google Translate app. And preferably not the online version that you search up on Google, like the actual app on your iPad, because that has a memory function that allows you to sort of track all the vocabulary that you have done. And that means that you don't have to write down on a piece of paper all the new vocab that you come across, and it really just saves a lot of time. And you can also use Anki flashcards. This is something that a lot of my colleagues, I should say, like in med school, are using right now, even for medicine vocabulary. And consistency is key. Work on 20 different new vocab every day. Think about it. A year is 365 days. 365 times 20. Well, I'm not doing the math, but it's gonna be like 7,000 something, and that will be a lot of new words just after 1 year. And 2 years, you're basically gonna be in the same vocabulary as any other native speaker. And for native speakers, read a lot, I guess, preferably interesting things, and just practice teaching and debating. Debating is super useful. It allows you to become better at arguing, better logically, and just better at writing essays. And also a third thing I find useful is writing diaries and responses to books. So if you keep on journaling every day and sort of reflecting on your day, you're going to get into the habit of doing that and writing good essays, etc. But I think overall, just do these things and pay attention in English class. Like there really isn't a special way around it. Just like read a lot of other good essays that other people write and learn from those exemplars. And that will be good. So now onto the NCEA scholarship introduction. Firstly, what is it? It is the most rigorous, the hardest secondary school examinations possible in New Zealand. It's harder than the normal NCEA exams, and it's harder than the IB and the Cambridge, harder than everything. And the difference between NCEA and NCEA, these are two different things. NCEA is the system of study, whereas NCEA is the organization that organizes all of education in New Zealand. And this scholarship exam is a set of exams they kind of give out to figure out who the best of the best in New Zealand are, essentially, and to reward them financially. And yeah, there are 37 different subjects in the NCEA scholarship. And every single high schooler in New Zealand, even if you're an international student, has the right to do it. Just go talk to your teachers if your school doesn't provide it, because you actually do have the right to take it. And it's free for all domestic students, i.e. students with citizenship, as well as students with the permanent residency. International students need to pay around $100 per every subject that they attempt. And the way it works is that the top 3% in every single subject is going to get a scholarship. And the top 0.3% gets a outstanding scholarship. And why should you do it? It's a good opportunity to extend yourself. And also, if you wanted to go to a New Zealand university, you can also make some money off that. So why not? And these are the more specific categories of awards. Single subjects, $500, 1 year. 3 or more subjects, if you're able to get, say, scholarships in 3 subjects, you're able to get this award called the Scholar Award, which is $2,000 for 3 years. So the total would be like $6,000. So if you look at it, the jump is quite big, right? If you just get one scholarship, you get $500. If you get 3, you get 12 times that. So if you look at that, it's actually quite high yield if you're able to get this. And single subject top scholar, same award as the one before. Outstanding Scholar Award, which is if you are in the top 60 students in New Zealand. The standard for this changes depending on the competition in that year. But generally, the minimum requirement is going to be 1 outstanding subject and 4 other scholarships. So 5 scholarships with 1 outstanding. That's what you need to get it. And after this, you also have your name published on the website. Your name is going to be out there on like a table, which is of course pretty nice as well. And Premier Scholar Award, top 7 to 12 students in New Zealand. And this is going to be $10,000 for 3 years. So that's going to be $30,000 for you. And the minimum requirement generally is going to be 3 outstandings plus a few number of scholarships, like extra scholarships. But this changes from year to year based on the competition in that year. I just know that there is a lot of inflation happening in the recent years, and it's getting harder and harder to do this. And then Prime Minister's Award for Academic Excellence. So top scholar in New Zealand. That's me, by the way, for my year. And $10,000, in terms of the money, it's the same. But I guess you just get an extra cup and you get an extra certificate and the ability to talk in front of everyone at Parliament and talk, shake hands with the Prime Minister. So those are some extra things that are also pretty nice, even though it's not monetary. So yeah, this is just a table that kind of represents some of the subjects and the number of people who are able to get outstanding, etc. If you look at art history, for example, there are only 812 people who do it in New Zealand in total. And then, of course, 2 people get outstanding. So yeah, the percentage is kind of there. And if you look at a subject that is, wait, is English even on the page? I feel like it's getting cut. But if you look at calculus, for example, it's got like 8,000, close to 9,000 people doing it. And the number of outstanding, of course, is going to be a lot higher. And this honestly only really matters if you're trying to get top scholar in the subject. Because think about trying to get top scholar in calculus out of the 9,000 people. You have to be number 1. And compare that with if you wanted to do top scholar, to become top scholar in agriculture and horticulture, like the farming kind of stuff. You only have to be top out of those 595 people. So it's going to be a lot easier, basically. So you can look at this information, create a strategy as to what you want to do to get the best results. So why should you do it? It's a good challenge, good way to extend yourself and to prove yourself to other people and to show basically how good you are at academics, essentially. And it gives you a lot of glory and confidence, for sure. And it also provides you with a pretty big monetary award. But the bad thing, I guess, about this monetary award is that if you go overseas, you lose it. You kind of have to stay in New Zealand, go to a New Zealand university to be able to get it. And the third thing is that the exam is from November to December, which basically means that you don't have to worry about it interfering with your other Cambridge and IB exams, which are usually held earlier before that. And it also helps with university applications and doesn't interfere with your university applications. How this works is that by the time you finish your scholarship exams, that's when December starts. And that's when you start writing the applications to the Ivy League schools in the US if you wanted to go there. And which means that it doesn't really interfere because the time is kind of mismatched. And it also helps a lot if you're able to get scholarships in year 12. When other people don't have it and you have it, you are likely to win. So, and that's about it from me. So I guess I'll just initiate the Q&A time now. And